And we are live. What is going on with everybody? It's your boy Eric, aka Young God, coming to you live in the Green Dungeon right now, giving it to you real, raw, rugged. And before I do this, usually my next thing is I got somebody on the phone and let them introduce themselves. But before I ever do that, I just want to give him a quick introduction. First of all, he came through with the headphones, making it much more easier for everybody in the situation to hear him better. Then he said, "Hey, should I flip my phone?" I'm like, "Sir, you've obviously been here before." So this guy knows what he's doing, and he's making it easier for everybody in the world. So on that note, I will let him introduce himself.
Yo, what's up? This is Casey Jost. Is that all I say? Do I say anything special?
It's whatever you want to say, man.
I guess most notably, like I'm a producer on Impractical Jokers, and sometimes they put me on camera for some behind the scenes stuff. But I've been doing comedy now for a little while, and I always try to think of like what's the best audio experience or visual experience for people. I can't help it. I can't turn off the producer mind.
Hey man, we got your nice face on HD, got your beautiful voice coming through. The quality is great, man. And I also want to start off by saying that you came through with the wired headphones. I don't know if it's on purpose, but personally, I hate AirPods. I think AirPods make people look like a dick.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I know. It's like the Bluetooth headphone was like such like a douchey kind of thing for
Hmm.
so long, but now like they're cool because there's two of them, I think. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know. Like I part of it is just I trust the wired connection. Like the same thing with like a microphone. I want like a XLR cable. I
Hmm.
don't want the wireless ones never sound as good for like a microphone. So I feel like I'm the same kind with like wired. And plus, I still got like I'm rocking like an iPhone SE at this point. And like while they're still dropping like iPhone 11s, I'm still gonna keep the SE, which has the headphone jack. I like it old school.
Hey, I'm out here rocking with the iPhone 6, still got the
There you
headphone
go.
jack. I do not want to
Hell
lose the
yeah.
headphone jack, man. Don't want to lose the
Hell yeah.
headphone jack. When you first heard that, when they were like removing the headphone jack, were you like initially for it or were you always against it?
I'm not even like I get it. Like on some phones, like I mean, if they have solutions out there that are like like the Lightning headphones or like I think some of the Android phones have like the USB-C
Hmm.
headphones like that. Go for it. But there's nothing wrong with the technology. Like it's still very like it's still utilized so often. So it's not like you're taking like it's not an outdated you know thing. It's like cars don't have a cassette player anymore. Like I get that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But everything else still uses that, and they're just I get it. If they're trying to make it more waterproof or something. But a lot of times phones you still can't like put underwater for that long or for that deep. So it's like, what are you even getting out of this?
I'm pretty sure it was a money thing, just because now you have to buy the little extra thing, and it's so easy to lose. It
Right?
was like, oh, you lost it? Let's come buy another one. It's like, oh man, gotta buy
That's
another
true.
one. So yeah, it's always a money thing. And the first time, it was my first time being in LA. I think, well, it's not. I think last month was definitely my first time being in LA, and it was a different experience. Like everybody had an AirPods. It was like,
Yeah.
every single person in LA owns AirPods, and I usually do. I don't know if you've ever seen people do public interviews, almost kind of similar to the Impractical Jokers, but just usually going to people having a topic talking about it. And it was so hard to do in LA because everybody had an AirPods. So I'm like, I don't want to bother them. They're listening to something really important right now, or they're on the phone. So yeah, LA is it's a different monster. All right, where are you from initially?
I'm from Staten Island, New York. I lived there like my whole life until I met my now wife, and I moved in with her in Brooklyn. But I had like in college, I went to college in Jersey at Rider University, and then I moved back to the island, like a little neighborhood called Stapleton, which is like famous for like many members of the Wu-Tang Clan like living
Yeah.
there. But like I lived in Stapleton for a couple years, and then I moved in with my wife, and I'm in Williamsburg, and I've been there. I've only lived in places that people make fun of. People are like making fun of Staten Island, Jersey, Williamsburg. It's like I only live in places that people shit on.
It's funny that you bring up making fun of the New York area because I've been trying my hardest for these last couple interviews. I told myself that I will not slander New York. I'm pretty.
Nice.
That's my thing. Like I really have a big issue with New York, and it's funny
Wow.
because I feel like New York people have an issue, not an issue, but they love to make fun of where I'm from, which is Florida, because the whole Florida man meme, and you know how that goes.
Of course.
But
But Florida's like the sixth borough. It's
that's
like
funny. Why do you
it
say
is.
that?
Because I mean, like, there's so many people from Florida who's like families from New York. I know people who are back and forth from like here to Miami, like all the time. Like everyone I know in Florida has a Yankees cap. It's
Mm.
like insane. Like it's like for some reason, Florida's just a place where like it's another thing. It's like an old New York dudes like move down there and
Yeah.
like it's just like the sixth borough.
Have you ever been to Florida?
Yeah, plenty of times.
So,
Yeah.
so coming to Florida, do you see any type of like similarities between the people from New York and Florida?
Yeah, there's a large like kind of retired, population of people who move down there, and so like that just influences the culture in a weird way. Like, there are like I feel like there are delis in Florida
Mm.
because New Yorkers moved down there and like made that happen. Um, but like a lot of times that like when I first started going to Florida, I was a kid, and like our parents might take us to Disney like once in a while. But now like as I'm older, like I've gone to Miami and I really like that. But Miami's cool because it feels like an international city,
Mm.
and that's kind of like what New York is like, right? But there's a lot of like people from Cuba that like move there and live there now, and like people from all over the world. Like people from Europe go to Florida, go to like Miami more than they go to like other cities.
It's funny that you said it because when I was in LA, I feel like I met so many European people, and it was crazy because I was like, it was funny. I seen this girl who I thought was this nice looking girl. I was like, oh, let me go and talk to her. So I went to go talk to her. Didn't speak a lick of English. And look, she was black, so I'm like, oh, we're gonna be speaking the same language. And I said, hey, and she was like, oh, and her friend was like, oh, she's German. And I said, what the fuck? I'm like, oh, I see somebody because I was at an all white party. I'm like, oh, I see somebody I relate to. And yeah, I feel like the scene in Get Out. The guy was like, oh, it's nice to see your brother in here. And he tried to give him a fist bump, and he grabbed his fist. I was like, oh, man. I was like, where am I at? So that's what it felt like. But yeah, haven't been to Miami outside of like when I was like 5 years old. So I don't really get the international feeling because I'm in Jacksonville, and it's not really that like many like outside European influences in Jacksonville. So it's interesting.
I should say that like Florida also has like a little bit of the entire country because
Yeah.
it definitely has like some real southern kind of like Floridian people, but then I do think it has those pockets. Like my grandma lived in like Sarasota for like a long, long time, and like she would be like it's a real like kind of artsy community, but there's also just like a lot of old people and people taking care of old people and like entertainment for old people. She'd be like, you should move here and be a comedian here. And at one point in my life, I was like, maybe.
Why not? Like, what made you not do that?
I guess part of it is like you want to be in the areas where it's like you have to actually like it's harder. You want to be in the areas that's like it's harder to be a comedian because the reason why it's harder is because like the best people are here, and you kind of want to be by the best people because you can't help but be influenced by them, and it makes you a better comedian because you have to rise to their level. Otherwise, you fail. So I think New York, especially for me, has always been a place where it's like you could get like you go to a show and you follow someone who just killed, and then you have to get to that. You have to be that good for like something like stand up. But also, there's just a lot of people coming here from all over, so it's the most competition.
And it's very interesting because I feel like that competition just breeds. You know, when you're competitive, you kind of feel like you want to feel like I'm the best. You know, I'm this, I'm that. And one thing that I realized about New York people, a lot of them think that Southern people are idiots, and it's really funny. And I'm not gonna lie, I think certain parts of like Alabama, Mississippi, certified imbeciles. Like I would not claim them. Like I don't know anybody in their right mind. Like, oh, I'm finna vacation in Mississippi. Like you're on your own that, buddy. So on that, I get it. You being a New Yorker, do you find yourself fitting any stereotypes that people have with you guys?
You know, it's weird. Like I grew up in Staten Island, but like I really don't have like an accent, and I don't have like a kind of like a New York. I don't have that much of a New York vibe. I mean, maybe like a hipster vibe, but like, but not really like the quintessential. But I mean, there's definitely like I think New Yorkers get a reputation for being like impatient. Because it's just like, you know, it's not that we're impatient, we're just direct.
Yeah.
And because like everything's so fast paced that, you know, it's not that kind of, you know, slow mentality. So if someone's like, excuse me, can you help me with this? A lot of times people will be like, no, I'm busy. Or if they are helpful, they're like, what are you looking for? Times Square? You just go 4 blocks up there and make a left, stay to the left, you know? And it's just direct. And I think I definitely have that. And so I think I get like impatient if I travel somewhere, if I go to like Nashville or something. I guess I'm used to like a certain speed, and you know, to be honest, like now the major cities are all pretty good. Like I remember a time, like even in Brooklyn, where like if you went to like a restaurant, the service would be like not as good as like in Manhattan, because like Manhattan's fast paced, and Brooklyn would always be like, you'd be a waiter, they'd be like a waiter always like forgetting your order or not writing stuff down, and it's like that still happens all over, but it just, you can't really get away with that in Manhattan, and now that's like spread out to like all the boroughs, but now even other cities too. Like you go to a place, you go to like New Orleans, or you go to like any of the big cities, and it's like everything's kind of top quality.
It's interesting that you say like everybody being impatient, because I feel like me just so used to being to the South, asking for directions is low key. It's kind of like a conversation starter. So it's like,
Yeah.
yo, like, where's the nearest club? And it's like, oh, what type of club are you looking for? And it's like, oh, where are you from? Instead of just like
Yeah.
2 blocks up the street, you know? So, like, you say going to a place like Nashville, like, do you find yourself, like, you try to catch yourself, or you just, like, let it go? Like, ah, whatever, I'm just going to be my New York self.
It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm going like for work, I probably stay in like work mentality. But if I'm going for like leisure, I'll probably try to adapt. I'll even be like, I'm like the vacation version of myself.
Yeah.
I want to like chill and try to be like the locals, and like try to let that, you know, go into my personality, or find my version of myself like within that, and you know, try to not be a New Yorker for a minute.
Now, usually when I do these interviews, I have on a crazy color bonnet at the green background. You're outdoing me with the colors today, man. You got
Right.
a lot of stuff going on in the background. So I have to ask, where you at? Because there's like a lot of stuff going on.
So this is like I'm in like the Impractical Jokers, like our kind of like our writers' room of
Okay.
like where we come up with stuff and where we pitch stuff to the guys. So a lot of these are things that we've filmed. We've actually already filmed a lot of these like for the show, and so like this is like a punishment that's going to be coming out in a little bit called Zinc Pun. But typically we're not supposed to. It might be reversed. I can't tell.
Yeah,
But
I can see it.
typically this stuff is not supposed to be seen, but like we're pretty much done with the season, and like a lot of it's going to be airing soon, so I'm not like too worried about it. There's no like really big secrets here, and if it is a big secret, it's usually like disguised by some sort of like code word, because we don't, like, you know, we keep secrets from the actual jokers themselves. Like, you know, if it's a secret punishment for Sal, the other guys don't want Sal to know about it, so
Yeah.
we'll have like secret codes and stuff, and only we know the answers of like what that means.
Now, I really want to get into your producing role, because I think that's really interesting. But before we
Yeah.
do that, something that I didn't know until I was studying for the interview one time, you made music. And
Yeah.
I listened to your music.
Wow, thanks,
It's
man.
good stuff, man. I listened to Herb. That was the name of the album, right? The
Yeah,
first
that's perfect.
first song on there, fire. It's really,
Oh, thanks,
really
dude.
fire stuff. Good album, but the favorite song was my first song.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
sick.
You're good. You're a good musician. So yeah, I was curious of like, what's the background of you? Were you always into music? Is that a newly thing or what?
No. Since high school, like growing up, like in Staten Island, I was sort of like, you know, a lot of at the time where I grew up, there was a lot of like kind of club kids. Like Staten Island kids would like go to clubs, and me and my crew was like we were like a big counterculture to that. We would like play instruments, and we played in bands. And there was like a good scene there for bands, like a lot of punk bands, like you would find in like Jersey or something, like hardcore bands. But we were kind of into like more like laid back, kind of like, you know, maybe like Pixies-y, kind of like Pavement, Weezer stuff. So we would always play like kind of like a quintessential like 4-piece, like 2 guitars, bass, and drums, and we'd always switch around. So I got a lot of experience playing drums, playing guitar, bass. Like we would think about like writing our own songs rather than being like a cover band. So like to record music on my own now, like technology's so good, like I've been doing it, but like I've always been going to studios, and like I was in a band playing drums for like 7 years, and then I've been playing guitar in like a band called Less Vinyl for like maybe a decade now. But in the last like 5 years, I've been releasing and recording albums like under my own name, just Casey Jost, and I have like 3 or 4 albums of just that, and like I churn them out pretty quick, because I'm always just, you know, it's that bug. I like, if I'm bored, instead of like watching TV, I'll just like pick up a guitar and think of like something to play, and then I'll try to record that idea and then craft it more and more. Like songwriting is something that I find like addictive. Like I want to do it all the time. And it's funny because I approach it in a way, like when I record, I think like kind of like, because I was also big into hip hop, so like I've always been like, oh, I'm gonna record guitar and bass and stuff, and like record all that like as if I'm making a beat, and then rather than like kind of, but my approach is not it. My approach is like, oh, then I have to put like bars over this, you know. But I'll sometimes like sing it, or like I think a lot of the stuff that I write is very wordy, and like I've always been influenced by like kind of hip hop lyrics and wordplay, and so like that's kind of goes into it. But I've seen other people write songs and record, and it's different than the way I do it. And mine is probably similar to like how like a hip hop producer might make a track and then get people to do the hook and the chorus. But I'm just kind of, or the hook and the verse, and I'm just kind of doing that on my own. So I don't know.
No, something interesting that I don't know if you would be able to agree with, because I don't know how much background you have in writing raps. But something that I've realized, because I'm not a rapper by any means, but songwriting and rap and songwriting and just like singing or the music that you do is really different. And I want to see if you agree with this, because like I said, I don't rap at all, but I can. I like to think. So when I do, it's I don't know, I feel like I'm more constrained. But when you're writing over like a acoustic guitar and you're singing, I feel like you're so much more free to like write. And I honestly think that's because of the beat and the way the beat is constructed in rap. You kind of have to catch the flow. You have to flow like this, but you really don't have to catch a quote unquote flow when you're singing over an acoustic guitar. So I feel like your mind is like, oh, I don't have to stick to this flow, so I can think of more creative lyrics. I don't know if you have any type of thing to say about that.
Yeah, like there is definitely a difference, but really the way that I write, like if I'm playing an acoustic guitar thing, like the way that I approach it is probably more rhythmic, like in the way that a rapper would. And like, especially rappers like like a Method Man is like known for like switching up his style multiple times on a track, and like that kind of or like Q-Tip, and like I've always thought that way, and I've been trying to actually write more songs where it's not like that, like intentionally being like, oh, I want to like sing a phrase that's more like not rhythmic, like more like syllabic. I don't even know what you call it, like you would like a lead, like if you're writing a lead guitar, like a melody, more melody, more melodic. That's what it is. And so I've been kind of trying to push myself to do that more, thinking things more like melodically, because that's like very catchy, and I feel like I've done. But also on that record, Herb, like there are a couple songs where like I do kind of rap on them. Like
yeah.
And I don't know. It's like it's sort of like white rap, and like the way that the Beastie Boys or like Beck, if you know like early Beck stuff, like a lot of his stuff, it's like, or like the way Bob Dylan kind of like pushes lyrics on you in this way. That's like there's a melody there, but it's very much like vocal. I also had a project for like a comedic rap project for a while with my friend Patrick Noth, who's like a really good rapper and a really good producer. And I've always kind of been like, in my head, I'm always like a novice, how we all kind of, are our biggest critic. Yeah. And it was great working with Patrick, because we got to like, that's another person who I was like, who set like a high bar. And so we did a project called Chase and Rose, and like we play these like kind of summertime rappers, like that group LFO. So it's like definitely character rap, and we're trying to be like kind of cool whisper rap shit, but it's real like pop music. And that was really fun, because like we would take topics. Like, we have a song called like Pizza, and we're just like rapping about pizza, and then you get to break it down like you would a rapper and like write verses that's just about pizza, and like, or there's another song just about summertime, or like, it's old school, but it's fun.
Comedy rap, really underrated when it's done really well.
Yeah, we have some videos out there too. So if you check out like Chase and Rose, you can see like a video. Oh, we have a song called "I'm a Flirt." That's like that. I think is real good. That's like my favorite one. There's a music video for it. So Chase and Rose, "I'm a Flirt."
I'm gonna definitely have to check that out. I'm mad I didn't know about that beforehand. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out after we're done with this. But yeah, like I was saying before the music thing, I think producing in like for TV shows and for movies, it's really interesting. Although, I'm not gonna lie, I've interviewed a producer before. Still don't know what a producer is. I don't know what the difference between a producer and a director is. So please enlighten me.
So recently I've been directing a few more things, like, and that's been interesting. And I definitely see the similarities. Producing, like, it really is like, producing is a little bit like what a writer would do, but it's not necessarily a script. Like, so for Jokers, like, we don't have scripts, but we like want to have things set up so that like the odds of the show, of like the shoot going well, are in our favor. And so like we'll have ideas, or like we'll talk to the guys and be like, all right, Murr, do you want to plan any secrets for the other guys, or Sal or Joe, or and then like, so if Sal comes and says, yeah, I want to have exercise equipment on set that Joe has to do to make him sweaty, like in the cut. We will be like, all right, and we'll facilitate that. Like producers will like kind of facilitate those things. And there's other departments that we'll talk to. We'll talk to like the art department, and they'll find the best workout gear that doesn't have logos all over it, and like we tell them what they want. But the producers are sort of like the middlemen to like make what the guys want happen. Whereas the director is really just there to like with the cameras and like to make sure that the shots happen. There's probably so that and like a DP, which is like the director of photography, is really like worried about what cameras we're using and where they are, and the director is overseeing the camera work and making sure that's all happening. And then some directors will oversee like the producers on our show, not as much, but we still work with them, and we'll let them know. We'll say to the director, oh, by the way, we are bringing in this exercise equipment, so we probably want to get that coming in on camera, and he'll make sure that happens. It's everybody works so tight together, and especially on shows like this, everyone does a little bit of everyone's roles. So it depends. Like on a movie, the director is sort of the boss, so like producers have to get things to the director, and the director kind of approves these things. And like sometimes there are producers that literally just give money, and like they're just like maybe they're there on set and they have a little bit of feedback, but they don't do as much because their thing was just like to give money. Like that's when you hear like maybe like a producer, but not all producers are like that. It's a weird title, and there's always these like different versions. Like there's even on our show we have like comedy producers, we have segment producers, we have like associate producers. It's like everyone's kind of got a little different area.
Well, like it's such a chaotic world. And do you think running a show like this is harder than running a scripted TV show, or is it easier doing a show that's not scripted like this?
It depends on your your level of expertise or your interest. Really, it's your interest level, because there are some people who would not really have interest not being on a scripted show, because it definitely is more chaotic in some ways. And now there are deadlines for writers who write like for I have a friend who writes on The Good Place, and he's written on Silicon Valley. His name's Andrew Law. He's like an incredibly talented writer, and that show is just so easy for him because he's really smart, and like he is dedicated and motivated to write scripts. But I'm sure that they have deadlines that stress them out, and there's like that's another thing of a competition of like there are other writers in the room, and I want my script to be the best. Whereas like for me personally, I would prefer to work on shows that are maybe like a little bit more run and gun and spontaneous, and like we need to like set something up, and if it doesn't go well, like I'm ready to switch gears. I have a lot of like improv background, so I'm like always like I'm never really thrown by something, and I've done like weird gigs like where I've like hosted stuff for like HQ Trivia where it's like weird and you don't know what's going to happen, and I like love that environment where some people would be like so stressed out by it. I'm like, no, I don't care if like the technology fails, like I'll riff, like I'm like that's when I feel the most alive.
I think that's really interesting because like okay, so to kind of take a step back, Impractical Jokers was a show I've always heard of. Then I just started watching it this year because beforehand I was like, I don't know, I just never felt the need to watch it. I was like, it's like 4 old white men. I don't know why I'm watching this TV show. No point in me watching this. So I think I was just watching the Carbonaro Effect, my first time watching that as well. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good TV show. And then I think the next show was Impractical Jokers. I was like, oh, this is white man show. Let me just watch this real quick. So I watched it, and I think it's safe to say that's currently my top 5 favorite TV show right now.
Whoa.
And top 5, maybe top 3 to be honest with you, because there's not a lot of TV shows I'm watching. But that is top 3 right there, because it's like every show you're guaranteed a good laugh, spontaneous running gun type stuff, and I love that about the show. So yeah, just want to say before I get into anything, you being a producer, shout out to you for producing a very amazing show.
Oh, thank you.
Doing good
Appreciate
things like that. So yeah, I think that the show is really, 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 really good. And I've been trying to like go back in seasons. So I started from the current season, working my way back just to see, because I'm pretty sure it's progression, because you guys didn't know things that you didn't know season 1 that you know now, So
oh yeah, season one's crazy to watch for me. Like,
really, I haven't watched season 1 yet.
Oh yeah, it's like it seems like such a different show, and it's still cool, and you can see like what like the show became. But personally, I'm like, oh my god, this looks so different. It was also shot in like 2010 and 2011, so it was like, we weren't even HD. I think it was like standard def where it's
Yeah.
like, you know, the bars are up on it, you know, and now it's like this. But yeah, that's crazy. But I think like we started to really figure out like comedically exactly what we wanted to do around like season 2 and 3, and we've just been improving on that every year since. Honestly, I just watched an episode the other day, and it was one of my favorite episodes, and this is in season 9. And that's the thing. Like, what's nice about like watching those 4, and they improvise a lot. The whole show is them, you know. But like we try to facilitate and make things that they would do, and you know, like, you know, kind of produce in their voice. But it's crazy. Like, I'm still always surprised by things, and something will happen on set, and I'll hear about it. And maybe I'm not there, and then when I watch it in the cut, I'm watching it like I'm like a fan, just like dying laughing at it.
Season 1, is there something that you, outside of like the quality of like the cameras and stuff, just something that you just like, it just makes you cringe, like, you know, why did we think this was a good idea? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, definitely. There's also stuff like the network also didn't know exactly what show it was going to be, and some of their notes were a little misguided, and they would like push us into things that were, and they would also sometimes pushed us into things that really helped the show too. Like, to be honest, when we first looked at the show and they had all that like thumbs up, thumbs down stuff, which is like the whole gameplay. At first, I didn't like it. I was like, why don't we just keep doing the show and not have like a win or lose? Like, you just tell each other what to do. But then it really hooked people early on. Like, people liked that it was like almost like a game show that doesn't feel like a game show. So that was something that the network came up with. Or like, you know, the guys gave like some options for it, and the network really pushed us on. They're like, keep to this, that I liked. Some goals, like, you know, now goals are like a little bit more open. You know, like, you know, if you refuse, you lose kind of thing. I think some of the goals in the first season are a little misguided. Not that I cringe to it, but it's some stuff I'm like, yeah, that we could have done this better, or why did we make up this thing? Or it's a little bit more pieced together. Like, I think we were still figuring out the show, and it gets a little clunky. But I don't think there's a point where I'm like, oh, you know, in like our second episode, or Sal like picks up poop, but he's got like a glove on, and I'm like, why did we let him wear a glove? Because he was such a germaphobe, and he really still is. But like, we should have. That's like a moment where I'm like, now we would never let him get away with that, and he wouldn't let himself. But like, you know, because there's a version of like his personality that is such a germaphobe that it's almost funny that he wore a glove, and that's like a thing that comes out is like, that's the thing. The other thing that people tune in for is like the 4 guys' personalities. It doesn't really work if you just had like any 4 people every episode. It needs to be like those 4, and their friendship is like important. So the network was good at like making us really talk about have the 4 guys like talk about who they are and their relationship to each other, and I think that was big too.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine the network season 1 would, for any type of show, would hover around everybody, make sure everything is going right, just kind of, you know, making sure this project works, because if it doesn't, they're going to panic. And I would imagine season 9 now that they would kind of like give you guys a little bit more free reign, or is it always like, am I right on that?
It's a mix. We've also had like new executives from True TV come in that are just that understand the show more and really help the show. Like, we have a dude named Simi Kostanowitz who's like the executive producer on the True TV side. But when you think about the show when it started, like, you know, they wanted it to go well, of course, but this was on a network that had no comedy shows, really. It was like all reality TV shows, weird kind of shows. It was originally Court TV, which was famous because of like the OJ trial. And then Court TV turned into True TV, which had reality, and then we were the first comedy show. So they were like, they've never really done this for a comedy show. So they were figuring it out too. And it was like the Joker's kind of first or second show, because they had pitched some shows that were like sketch shows. But this is very different. It's like their first hidden camera kind of thing. So there was a lot of new things that were happening. And the technology does go into it, because there were things we couldn't do because we didn't have enough cameras at the time, or we didn't have the budget for it, that forced us into doing things that I think are now like just the style, how we make the show, you know? Like how sometimes like artists, all they have is like this much, and they make something amazing because that's all they had. I think that's like kind of how it happened a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It's changed a lot, but I still think we try to like keep to our core beliefs that we like learned from that first season.
I think it's always so cool. Like when you look at like an interview with the artist, and like, yeah, it was broke, so I didn't have a microphone, so I recorded with a shoe. I was like, you recorded with a shoe? That's crazy.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you didn't have enough money, or you didn't have this, that you guys just used and you still use to this day?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, early on, like when they first came up with the idea for the show, they filmed it literally like on cell phones or like little handy cams as like to pitch the show to the network. So they filmed stuff with like phones and like crappy cameras just to pitch the show, to give the network execs like an idea of like what the show would be like. And to this day, like we might have moments, like we did a challenge I think last season where they were playing like hide and seek.
Yeah, and they had the phones and they was hiding from the lady. Yeah, that was good stuff. That was good stuff.
And what's so real about that is it's like real friends playing a game of hide and seek, and like they're using their phones. It's like really a game that anyone can play. So like that's one example. And then, you know, just the dynamic of the four of them has never changed. Like they've been friends since high school, and like they're all like they're doing pretty well. Like they're on the road, and like they're like the show's been going on for a while. They're not like rich for any, you know, but because it's like a cable TV show, but they're not like poor. But they'll still be like, oh, by the way, buddy, you owe me $20, and they're like, oh yeah, and they're like still friends from high school that are like counting $20, you know. But they're also generous and they give each other gifts. But I just love like little things like that, how they're still like these like high school guys to each other. That dynamic will never change.
That's so crazy that they've been friends for this long, and like I don't know, that's like the dream. Like your high school friends, you're in high school, like yo, we're gonna do this when we get older, but it actually never happens. But it actually happened with them. Like that's really crazy.
What also is crazy is like my high school like best friend, one of my best friends, is also a writer on the show. Like it was a thing where I was working here and we were all friends. He's also a comedian, and Sal knew him, and then you know like Sal was like asked him to write a submission packet, and sorry, nobody just came in, and he wrote it, and he got hired, and so now I've been working for like several seasons with like one of my high school best friends. So it's like. It's interesting how the dynamic of like the four of them and us as producers, it's just cool like that, to have that same thing happen.
Is there any shooting doing today since you're at the studio?
Yeah, I'm actually in the office today, kind of working on some stuff, but the guys are on set filming for, you know, this current season, which is season 8.
Okay, so season 8 is this current season, right?
Yeah, we're literally like filming episodes while we're airing episodes.
Yeah, when you said the news, I'm thinking you're like on season 9 now. I didn't know you guys were still filming for this season coming up. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we have like a good amount of episodes that we're premiering, but like in the last couple of years, we've been like shooting while we're airing, just because it just kind of happens. And we always have like a good amount of leeway, but sometimes it gets close. We only have 2 more weeks of this season of like actual production, and then we'll be down for a little while. So if anybody watching wants to hire me, let me know. And then but then I'll work on some private, like some personal projects and stuff like that. But and then we'll be back, I think, in the beginning of next year, which is 2020.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that a little dangerous because, like, if
sorry,
like you go. But no, I was gonna say, isn't it a little dangerous because I would imagine if you were filming for season 9, you would have way more ample amount of time. You could. If you make a mistake, you can fix it, but since you're like kind of crunched for time because you're in the midst of the season, is that ever a little like more pressure on you?
We always try to like overshoot so that we have options. So like, you know, it's very rare, and hope never, knock on wood, that like we film an entire day and we can't use any of it. I mean, things happen. Like maybe someone comes to set and like is feeling a little sick, but then they get too sick, and then you know we have like plans to how to handle that kind of thing. But in general, yeah, we've been really lucky, and we just have like a really good team that like knows how to make things happen quickly. It is nice when we do have more time, but I think, like I said, like sometimes like when you can't overthink it and you have to rush a project, like rush a shoot or something, sometimes you just surprise yourself at how great it comes out because you're not overthinking it. You're like just doing the thing that needs to be done.
Well, yeah, like I said, I think that even when you guys are pressed for time, you guys still put out great stuff. And you're busy, man. I don't want to keep you all day, but I do have one single question. Been trying to grow it for years, haven't grown it yet. First of all, you have a beard. Been trying to get the beard is not connecting. It's really stressful. Oh, yeah? But what I really want to grow is the chest hair, man. So you got the chest hair poking out. You know what I'm saying? It's not all the way out, but it's trying to get out there, man. Are you a chest hair guy? Do you not like the chest? Do you like hate that you grew it there, or you embrace it?
Well, you know what's crazy is like I used to be clean shaven, but I always like kind of clean up right here too. Like I didn't like the way it looked. But you know, my wife is into it, and
Wow.
at this point in my life, like I've been married now for like 5 years. I've been in a relationship for like 10 years. As much as like I care about my appearance, I don't. You know what I mean? Like I've kind of changed like how I, you know, care about it, how the world sees me in a weird way, which is probably sometimes problematic. But in this case, like she digs it, so it kind of gives you confidence, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I just like leave it, and then just like having that, I guess, blind confidence. But it is weird. Like last time I kind of shaved clean, I was like, I still think it looks weird. Like there's something where it's like a beard sometimes helps everything make sense, you know, especially when it comes to like body hair. But yeah, I kind of don't, you know, at this point I don't care that much. Yeah, but I'm definitely as a person that I'm an overthinker, which is like why I like doing things quick. But like every like decision, I'm like I look back being like, oh, I guess that was cool, but I was like nervous about doing it at the time.
No, the beard definitely makes you look important. Like you look like you're about to go fire somebody. Like you look
Wow.
like you look like you have to make some important decisions today. So the beard definitely works. And I'm not a married man, but I would definitely feel the way like probably if I was married, I wouldn't really care that much about my appearance unless my wife didn't like it. It's not like I'm trying to, because right now I'm single, so it's like going out trying to look good for the ladies. You're not trying to do that anymore. You trying to look good for one lady, she's in your house, she likes it.
It's
cool,
true.
You know, so is that how it is?
And it's freeing. It's freeing.
Yeah.
Like I recently went to Vegas, and I was with like a bunch of guys, like some single, some in relationships, and I really like had this thought. I was like, oh wow, like no one's even looking at me. Like I'm not really looking for it. So like, you know, but like once in a while, I'm also like now 34, and there's plenty of like single guys 34 that are like doing great. But I'm at this like weird stage where I'm like these younger ladies don't want me, and like the ladies my age are probably like not interested because I don't like look the part. So I was just like, this feels so weird, but I also love it. Like I feel invisible in the best way.
Now I was very curious how old you were because I could not tell if you were young or old. I was like, maybe he's young. I can't. You have one of those like I think it's the beard, and then you have like the gray hair. Yeah, it's like is it purposely gray? Is it not purposely gray? I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
so
it's just the way my grandparents on both sides were gray. My dad's gray. Like it's just gray in my family.
Wow.
Gray.
Well, hey man, do you have anything else you got to say before we get out of here?
No, thank you so much for reaching out, man. It's nice to have a conversation because it always makes me reflect on what I'm doing. So it this is as much like therapy for me as I hope it's entertaining and gives people some insight into this kind of thing.
Definitely. And I know that on Impractical Jokers, you sometimes talk to the guys, do a little mini interviews or whatever. So you're low-key a little mini journalist. Do you ever find yourself like trying to improve your journalist skills or trying to interview people better, or is that just something that comes natural?
That stuff I've been doing for a little while. Like I in high school we had like a little TV department, and then like I got asked to be like the anchor for that. So like on camera stuff I've always been doing. Yeah, I probably should work harder at getting better at it, but I guess I try to be more. I try to think about like what my questions are more and more, and like define like exactly or redefine exactly like what I want to get out of it and what I think that the person I'm talking to wants to answer. Because like these have all been great questions, and I think you do a good job at like bringing stuff out and making me feel involved in terms of like talking about like the music thing. I was like, oh great, no one asked me about that, great. And like that's like a thing that I think is important because how often do you see like a red carpet interview where it's like everyone's asking the same question, like was it fun making this movie or like something like that. It's like ask questions that the guest will be like excited to talk about or hasn't been asked yet. You know,
the biggest compliment somebody can give me is, "Wow, never been asked that before." And it was like, "Oh man, I finally." So when I seen you did music, I was 100% sure nobody's ever asked him about music. I was like, and I'm pretty sure he wants to talk about it. So let me bring that up because I feel like I'm gonna be honest here. A little secret if you're watching this interview, I'm gonna show. I write all my interview questions when I do in my notes. This is my notes for you. It's nothing in there. I didn't write down anything.
Wow.
Because I wanted it to feel more natural and organic. Because I feel like it feels like we're just having a conversation on FaceTime right now. It's not like I'm interviewing you. I want you to ask me questions. I ask you questions. So I'm glad you enjoyed your time here, man. I enjoyed my time doing this interview.
I had a great time, man. Yeah, I've watched a lot of your stuff too. Like when you reached out, and like honestly, you connect with all the guests in such a good way.
Hey, shout out to you, man. Good when to watch my stuff. You flip the camera, you got the audio. People, go follow this. What's your Instagram? Please go follow this man right now. What's your Instagram?
Yeah, it's just Casey Jost on everything, on Twitter, Instagram, everything.
I just followed Casey Jost on Instagram. Hopefully, I'm worthy enough to get a follow back.
Oh, hell yeah.
For everybody watching right now, appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, I say what I mean what I say. Haters gonna hate, players gonna play, and you guys holla at your boy.